Should I price my home higher to leave room for negotiations? Can I fire my real estate agent? Why is the seller leaving or selling their home? The Bank of Canada interest rate announcement. And of course, what happened to the Calgary real estate market for August 2022? All this, plus our advice for buyers, sellers, and investors coming right up. What's up guys, my name is Felix Chan, Calgary realtor and mortgage broker with the LiveInnerCity real estate team, helping you keep real estate simple. Let's go. Should I price my home higher to leave room for negotiations? Most agents would probably say no. However, our answer is it depends on the market and what it's doing, okay? Now, as a seller, there's two things that you need to know. Number one, where the market is, and number two, where the market is going. If you understand these two elements, then you're gonna be able to come up with a proper pricing strategy for the market. Let's go one level deeper so I can give you some context. I'm gonna share with you a principle of real estate that one of many that we share with the sellers that we work with, okay? And that is when you choose your price, you choose your competition. What I mean by that is, how are you gonna position yourself in the market? Is your listing gonna help sell others, or are other listings gonna help sell yours? Let's just say, for example, we had two houses that are exactly the same location, features, everything. The only difference is one is $90,000 and the other is $100,000. Well, which one are buyers gonna choose? It's pretty obvious. All things being equal, they wouldn't pay $100,000 when they can get the exact same home for $90,000. So the $100,000 property is pushing buyers to the $90,000 home. So when you choose your price, you choose your competition. Now, taking that same principle, that can be applied when you're looking at pricing your home higher, okay? Now, going back to the question is, should I price my home higher so I can leave room for negotiations? In a balanced market, the answer is no. And based on this principle, you will end up losing buyers. Warren Buffett talks about having a moat, meaning what is your competitive advantage? It could be location, the features of the home, and or the upgrades. But your moat could also be how your real estate agent markets your property. As an example, what we do for our sellers is we do home tours, and we're able to get hundreds, if not thousands of extra eyes on their property just because of the marketing strategies that we have in place. So as an example, we have this one here in Sage Hill. It was a luxury home, and even though the video was posted a year ago, we have 24,000 views as of today. And that video was one of our best performing videos. We also have this other video, which is the most recent property we sold in Brentwood. We posted this 3 weeks ago and we already have 1,500 views on that property. Now, keep in mind, YouTube is not a social media platform. It's actually a search engine. So it's specific to those people looking for, say, Brentwood or Sage Hill homes. Another moat is, how well does your real estate agent negotiate? You don't have to negotiate this much off the list price. You can price it right at market and negotiate very, very tight, which is what we did for our Brentwood property, and we got full list price. I didn't believe that we needed to go down, so we didn't. Oh, by the way, if you want to see me negotiate on a live call with a real estate agent, check out this video here and go to 11 minutes into the video. We ended up getting $30,000 over list price for this property. And I'm not saying any of this to brag or anything like that, but I just wanted to show you that when you understand these pieces, plus you partner with the right real estate agent, you're really putting yourself in a strong position to get an outcome that you're most likely aiming for. If you want to work with us, let us know in the link below. Now, if we're in a seller's market, then you can price it a little bit higher because buyers are willing to pay that price. They know the market is going up, and of course, FOMO kicks in. FOMO, fear of missing out. And they know, and they're confident that the market will hit that higher price and will continue to move up. And by this point, chances are they've lost out on 1, 2, 3, 4 or more offers just because of the bidding frenzy. In a buyer's market, you want to do the opposite. You want to list it right at market value or slightly below so that you have a little bit of a competitive advantage, okay? And or if you have upgrades or you're in a little bit more desirable location, price it the same as your competitors so that you do have that extra moat. By the way, guys, these were real life questions that we get from our clients. So if you have any questions yourself, let us know in the comments below and we're gonna address them in our next market update. Can I fire my real estate agent? Yes, you can. So we recently had a couple that called us and they just weren't happy with their agent. They weren't responsive, sometimes didn't even respond at all, didn't really interact or ask a lot of questions, or wasn't really proactive. They were just kind of sitting back and waiting for the couple that called us to call them. And so unfortunately, we actually get a handful of you guys calling us because of that reason. And so there's two things that you have to be aware of. Just because you're working with someone doesn't necessarily mean that you're bound legally by any terms or conditions, because if you haven't signed a buyer's agreement or a listing agreement, you can just tell them you're not interested in working with them anymore, it's not working out, or whatever the case may be, and you can switch real estate agents. Now, if, however, you signed a buyer's agreement or a listing agreement to list your home, then you are in a legally binding contract. You have to, there's mainly two ways that you can get out of that, okay? The first is you both have to mutually agree to end the relationship. Most of the time, that shouldn't be a problem because the agent will know that they've dropped the ball or they weren't there or whatever the case may be. And most people, I would think, would just say, yeah, I agree. I don't want to work with clients if they're not happy with me, and they'll usually end it. And then there's another way, which is if one party materially breaches the contract. So as an example, if you don't feel like your real estate agent is there and you keep seeing properties that you want to go view, but you can't get a hold of them, they're not responsive, they're not answering your calls or anything like that, or they take you, say, like a week later and the property is sold, if that continues to happen, then I would consider that a material breach of the contract, because the agent has fiduciary duties to you to ensure that they are acting in good faith. And if they're not responsive or not doing their job, well, that's, to me, is a material breach. So there are ways. You just have to speak to the agent, explain what your concerns are, and let them know what you want to do, which is ending the relationship. Now, if that doesn't work, you could talk to the broker or the manager of the brokerage and escalate it that way and try to resolve it from there. This is why it's so important to take your time in interviewing the real estate agents you're gonna be working with. Now, I've said this before, there's really two main types of agents out there. There's the order taker, in other words, a yes person, right? You tell them what to do, they just say yes to everything you say and just open the doors for you, and that's pretty much it. Or there's a consultant, which is, someone that gives you advice, tells you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, and is a consultant along the way. So if they're like, okay, if you want to make this decision, then here are the other things that you have to consider. There's a big difference between the two, and you'll only know if you start interviewing agents. If you want to have some questions or know what to ask agents when you're interviewing them, check out this video here, and hopefully that will give you some clarity on how to interview agents and what questions to ask. Why is a seller leaving or selling their home? Well, the truth is, most of the time, you're not gonna know. And to be honest, there's lots of reasons why. It could be a relocation, could be financial hardship, divorce, It could be health reasons, like maybe cancer. They could be moving on to the next milestone in their lives and maybe going to retirement home. There's so many different reasons. And to be honest, the reasons, it doesn't really matter, because when the seller puts their property up on the market, they already have a game plan. They already know what they're gonna take, what they're not gonna take, and what their walkaway price is going to be. So that's not gonna deviate from their plan. So you knowing why they're selling doesn't matter. Sellers are trying to get the highest price, and buyers are always trying to get the lowest price. Now, it's not to say if you knew the motivation of the seller, does that change your game plan? Absolutely. But it doesn't necessarily mean it could change the outcome of the entire deal. Instead, focus on what's important to the seller, not the motivation of why they're selling, okay? This is what I mean. For the most part, sellers are focused on price, okay? But that's not everything. Sometimes the timing is more important, or the buyer profile that buys their home could be even more important. I'm gonna give you a quick example. We were representing a buyer in a multiple offer situation, and we were $25,000 less than the two highest bids, okay? $25,000. At the end of the day, the seller ended up choosing us and our buyer because we were able to figure out what was important to the seller and figure out the backstory of the seller related to our buyer, so they had something in common, communicate that to the seller in a very short and concise manner, and they ended up choosing our buyer. In fact, they were so excited to work with our buyer and take that $25K off the table because of how we positioned the offer with the seller. The seller was so happy to choose our buyer that they physically wanted to call our buyer on the phone that night and personally thank them. So it's not always about price. You have to find out what are the pain points, what are the important things to the seller, and position that in a way that's attractive to the other side. The Bank of Canada interest rate hike. So today, as of filming this video on September 7th, this morning, the Bank of Canada raised their interest rates by 75 basis points to 3.25%. Now, what does this mean? It means it's only going to affect those with a variable rate mortgage, a HELOC or a home equity line of credit, and those with lines of credit. If you have a fixed rate mortgage, it does not affect you because your mortgage rate is fixed. The main driver for this is just the high inflation that Canada is experiencing. In inflationary times, central banks usually do increase rates to cool off inflation. What does this mean for the real estate market? Well, right now, that means prime is 5.45%. And if you were to get a variable rate mortgage, you could get prime minus 0.90. So that would give you a net rate of 4.55%. I think we're gonna start seeing a slowdown in the market, but it might not fall off a cliff like everyone is thinking, because they can still have the option of going with a fixed rate. And the fixed rate for a 5-year fix today, you can get 4.59%. So they're virtually the same. Now, if you want to know which one is better for you, either a fixed or a variable rate mortgage, I have a video here for you guys to check out. Okay, next up is what happened in the Calgary real estate market and our advice for buyers, sellers, and investors, and of course, the statistics for Calgary real estate. What happened to the Calgary real estate market in August of 2022? Well, to summarize it, it was actually a seller's market. It was actually stronger than last month, and if you want to know what happened then, check out my last month's market update over here. Sales were similar and pricing as well, except for townhouses. They're actually up $14,000 more than just last month. And of course, months of supply is actually lower than it was last month. Advice for buyers. Okay, there isn't a lot of inventory to choose from. The pickings are still pretty slim, especially if you're in the infill market. Now, infills are when they knock down an old house on an existing lot and they build either, townhouses or a side-by-side duplex or a single detached home. I'm talking about duplexes and detached homes in the inner city. Now, it's pretty tough to find anything under $850,000 that is 2019 or newer, 1,800 square feet in the inner city. A lot of the sales from the last 2 months have typically sold within 60 days. And I would say that's a pretty strong market. Now, on the flip side, if you're a seller and you have a 2018 or a 2019 infill, you can sell them at the same pricing as a 2022 build or even a 2023 build. Overall, the market is slowing down a little bit, but prices are actually still higher than they were this month last year. And the downtown condo market is still pretty strong right now, and you guys will see in the statistics, which I will share in a second. If you see something you like, make an offer on it, okay? There may be more interest rate hikes, so make sure you get yourself pre-approved, lock in a rate, and ensure that you're not paying more interest than you would necessarily have to. Advice for sellers. You still have an advantage. Prices haven't fallen off a cliff yet. New listings and inventory numbers this month are negative compared to the same time last year. So there's less competition out there right now. We feel like buyers are wanting something now, something that's turnkey versus waiting for something that, like a new build that might not be built for another 6, 8, or even 12 months, just because of the pressures from the interest rates. Price your property right at market and let the market decide if it's worth more than what you're asking for. If you need help figuring out how much your home is worth and you want to sell your house for as much money as possible, like this one, and this one, then give us a shout in the link down below and we can set up a seller strategy session with you. Advice for investors. Remember, you guys can still cash flow here in Calgary. And let me remind you that there is no land transfer fee. And the landlord rules are much friendlier to landlords than it is, say, in BC. The price of acquisition is just much lower than any major city in the rest of Canada. We were rated as one of the top livable cities in a huge study earlier this year. And remember, you can buy properties that you can develop later or add a secondary suite to it, bringing up the value of your property. You can collect rental income, pay down your principal, earn equity, and get the highest and best use for your piece of land by building an infill on it later. There's a reason why people from Toronto are coming here in droves buying property here. Even people in Hong Kong we've helped out and they're buying with cash or with huge deposits. And if you're a Calgarian, this is your competition. It's not other Calgarians. Well, you are, but most of them are coming from outside of town. And the homeowners that are calling us from Toronto, they're sick of the traffic, the busyness, and the people. They want to be able to go to a grocery store in 10, 15 minutes versus driving 30 minutes to get some basic groceries for the week. So there's a lot going for us here. And even though our market is not like Toronto and Vancouver, we still have a lot of upside growth left. Okay, let's dig into the numbers. For sales, detached sales were down by 17.6%, semi-detached minus 3.4%, townhomes 9.3%, apartments 57.8%. It's safe to say that we are likely hitting a peak for the sales of apartments. Inventory. For detached, it was minus 13.9%, semi-detached minus 30.7%, townhomes minus 35.9%, and apartments minus 21.8%. Great for sellers, not so great for buyers. Pricing. Now this is for average price, not benchmark or median price, okay? Detached, it was up 7.8% to $636,353. Semi-detached was up 5.2% to 514,793. Townhomes up 7% from 341,22. Apartments were up 4.5% to 270,176. Months of supply. Okay, if you guys don't know what months of supply means, it's the metric that we use to take a look at the market and determine what kind of market we're in. Buyers, sellers, or a balanced market. And what it means is, based on last month's sales, how many months would it take to absorb all of the existing inventory? In Calgary, between 2.5 and 4 months is a balanced market. And anything less than 2.5 months is a seller's market. Anything more than 4 months, it's a buyer's market, okay? For detached, it was up 4.5% to 2.24 months. Semi-detached, it was down 28.3% to 2.23 months. Townhome down 41% to 1.64 months. And apartments down 50% to 2.66 months. Now, a lot of these numbers for the months of supply is actually lower than what it was just last month when I did the market update. Okay guys, that is everything for this month. Hopefully you got some value out of these market updates. And guys, we do these videos for you, so if you have any suggestions or any topics that you want to cover, let us know in the comments below, okay? My name is Felix Chan, Calgary Realtor and mortgage broker with the LiveInnerCity real estate team, helping you keep real estate simple, and we'll see you next time.